Welcome back. We are the Brothers Mahoney. I am Michael.
And I'm James.
And tonight we are discussing the Spectre of Lanyon Moor, which is the 9th release of the Big Finish main range, and also, in fact, the 9th Big Finish release that we've listened to. It was written by Nicholas Pegg and released in June 2000, and it runs for about 2 hours and 7 minutes or so. The plot for this one's pretty fun, though. From Big Finish themselves, in a desolate Cornish landscape littered with relics of prehistoric man, the Doctor and Evelyn discover a catalogue of mysteries. What is the secret of the fog? Can the moor be haunted by a demonic host of imps? And what is Brigadier Lethbridge-Stewart doing in Pangriffin? Teaming up with his old friend, the Doctor realizes that an ancient conflict is nearing its conclusion, and Lanyon Moor is set to be the final battleground. Now, hearing that plot, a few things might jump out to you as they jumped out with me. One, I've always had a thing for moors. Who doesn't like moors?
Yeah, I've always liked moors. I mean, basically, they're the British version of swamps, and swamps are also pretty cool. So, moors have a special place in my heart as well.
And it should be noted that I come from a horror movie background, so the first thing I would think about when I hear the word moors is an American Werewolf in London, classic 1981 werewolf movie, where one of the very earliest lines in the movie is, "Stay off the moors." And boy, they didn't, and hey, things happened. Check it out, it's good stuff. And speaking of the horror movie background, I think that led to me enjoying this more than, perhaps the average listener might. I mean, I think it's a pretty sad story. In fact, I think it's the best story. Out of the 9 Big Finish releases we've listened to, I think it's the best of the 9. I think the atmosphere is great, the setting is great. So many things work together to bring this one, I guess, a step higher than many of the others.
Yeah, I agree the same as well. I enjoyed Radon more than Michael did, but this one it had atmosphere, it had a ladder of twists in it. You expect something like these twists to happen, but not as many as did happen, at least I didn't. And just the feeling of it, like, yeah, the cast was smaller. I mean, it's just a small amount of people around an archaeological dig, but it still has a really nice atmosphere to it. Again, it's near the moors, and there's a lot of fun with the characters who we do have. I think basically all of them are fun to listen to. I don't think there's a character in this one I actually disliked.
And it's at this point, and you can tell by both the plot description and the cover of the release, but the Brigadier returns. I'd want to say it's his first meeting with the 6th Doctor, because it's possible they might happen, maybe dimensions in time or something like that, something random like that. I really don't know. So I'm hesitant to say it's the first meeting, but it's the first one I'm aware of. So that was something I was excited to see, given that both the 6th Doctor and the Brigadier have in the past shown pretty bombastic personalities, so I wanted to see how they would sort of work together.
It's always possible they might happen in a book, but the way that they talked in this story, it's the first time they have met. Although I guess they could always have met in a book and it just takes place after this story. That's always possible. That's how time travel works. What I really liked about this meeting was the Brigadier sees the Doctor and this woman he doesn't know, Dr. Evelyn Smythe, who is the companion in this story. And when the character who found them is doing the introductions, the Brigadier just says, "Oh, I assume you must be the Doctor. Nice to meet you again, old chap," or something along those lines. And the Doctor asks how he knew. And I forget exactly how the Brigadier phrases it, but he lists like 3 or 4 things, like the way the Doctor's dressed completely strangely, which he would know from Colin Baker, and was certainly pottery, and just his just general attitude, and he knew it was the Doctor automatically. Oh, and the way they just popped up in a completely random place. That also is part of how the Brigadier realized it was him. It did take him a second to realize it.
And at this point, the Brigadier is technically retired. And not only is he retired, but he's also married. It mentions that he has a wife named Doris.
Yeah, who I believe we meet in Battlefield, but we've only seen Battlefield once. But yeah, so he's retired, but he's every now and then does a little bit of work for the British government. And it's kind of like what the second Doctor said in The Two Doctors, that they're officially quite unofficially.
Yeah, because he's actually at the site of this archaeological dig for his own purposes. I mean, he's on vacation, but he's there doing some undercover work.
Which is just great. Because, I mean, the Brigadier is such a good character. You're not going to just let him leave and retire. And plus, to be fair, a man like him isn't going to be able to leave and retire.
And it's sort of fun because there's a disagreement between the professor who runs this expedition, being a Professor Morgan, who is, on a side note, voiced by Toby Longworth. And he is running this expedition, which is looking into fugus. And if, much like myself, you were unaware of what a fugu is or was, it's sort of like an underground stone structure that seemed to only be located in Cornwall. And Cornwall, I mean, if you're British, you know what Cornwall is. It's the countryside of southwest England, according to Wikipedia.
Yeah, not being British, we know the name, but we couldn't place it. It's kind of fun because, just as a very small aside, watching Doctor Who and reading Harry Potter, sometimes it mentions locations that actually exist. We live in the United States. We know where states are, but I don't know the layout of the UK. I know the very specifics, but not much more than that.
Yeah, I mean, Scotland, Wales, England, is there really any difference?
I'm sure they would say so.
This is a bunch of Welsh and Scottish people pissed off at me. It's good times.
Or is it usually Scottish people are?
Oh, snap. But fugus are an underground stone structure that seem to be only in Cornwall. And what's interesting, well, there's a couple of things interesting about them. To this day, we don't know why they were built. And I should say they were built back in the day. I'm not sure if there's actual dates for this.
Yesterday at 6.
They've been there a long time, and there are debates by scholars and archaeology people about what these were actually made for. And what's also interesting, so not only do we not know what they were really for, another thing, there's only about, well, I guess technically Wikipedia says fewer than 15 conformed fugus have been found. So, one, there's not that many. Two, they're only in Cornwall. Three, we have no idea what the hell they're for. So, I can definitely see why Doctor Who wanted to do a story involving these in some way.
Fast considering back then, when this was recorded, maybe there's only like 5. I mean, I don't know when each of these 14 or 15 were found.
And what's amusing is that the professor who is running this expedition, Professor Morgan, he sort of has a difference of opinion with the Doctor. Of course, the Doctor just came in swaggering, talking about all these things. Despite having no degrees in any of this stuff, at least as far as us is concerned, the professor is sort of taken aback about his experience, him just coming in, and even worse, the Brigadier's listening to him as opposed to Professor Morgan. And it leads to an amusing line because, like I said, the Brigadier's here undercover, but the professor knows where he's here. And Professor Morgan says to the Brigadier, like, you're not even here officially. To which the Brigadier, of course, the Brigadier's always been a snappy speaker. May I remind you what it would mean to your survey if I were to make my presence official?
I think he's part of what makes the Pottery era as good. Neither Michael or I are the biggest fans of the Pottery era, to be fair, but
he adds a lot of enjoyment to the Pottery era.
I think he's the shining star of the Pottery era. I mean, Pottery's good fun, but the Brigadier's is always classic. I don't know if there's a story during the Pottery era where the Brigadier appears where he doesn't say something that makes me enjoy him being there. His very presence elevates the stories.
He's fairly certain it's Kramen.
He's just glorious in the Three Doctors, but that's true for most things.
So the Brigadiers here, which is all good fun, and I guess we should also throw in the other characters. Naturally, the Brigadier is voiced by Nicholas Courtney, so it's the same guy coming back to voice Lethbridge-Stewart, which is nice. And I also, if I recall, he did a couple of those straight-to-video things, right, such as Downtime.
I believe so. We actually do have the book adaptation of Downtime. Was that one of the, not BBC?
I think it's one of the Virgin Missing Adventures.
I did pick that up a few months ago. We haven't read yet, but we do have it. We're working on a small library. It's slow going. We'll get there.
But so Courtney has been involved in some Doctor Who stuff in the 90s. Unofficially, quite unofficial. But it's probably nice that he came back to I guess you could say, brand name release. I have to imagine a lot of fans were quite pleased to hear him if they happen to buy this back in June 2000.
I think that'd be a pretty exciting thing in fan circles. Say the Brigadier is coming back in an official Doctor Who capacity.
Yeah, and are there people who lend their voices to this? I mentioned Toby Longworth, who voices not only Professor Morgan, but one of the antagonistic forces of the episode, being the ancient evil, I believe, as described in the plot, an alien named Sancreda.
Anson Creed was glorious, but I don't want to distract from the cast right yet.
Yeah, I never would have thought they were voiced by the same people. Some of these, I mean, to me, it's pretty talented. I didn't think they had similar voices, so hey, it's
But
fantastic.
it is fantastic, but to be fair, they are voice actors.
Well, yeah, I mean, you'd hope it would be good. There's another character, a Philip Lydgate. He is an assistant to Professor Morgan. He has some more wild ideas. He's more into the computer side of archaeology. He's hoping that eventually we can do a lot of this archaeological stuff just by computers as opposed to a
Digging it,
hands-on, hands-on
digging it by
experience.
hand. I remember one of the I think forced discussions between the two is the two arguing because Professor Morgan says that computers should never replace the good work of a trowel.
Yeah, and it's just one of those odd. I mean, if you've seen Jurassic Park, you've seen how Alan Grant is sort of more into the old way. This computer's just been working for him. But yeah, Philip Lydgate is a younger guy, and he also has a decent relationship with. And it makes sense, but he has a decent relationship with Evelyn, given that she's a university professor. It makes sense that she sort of connected with some of these younger people. She did in the Marion Conspiracy, and she connected with Lydgate here too.
Well, she's just a nice woman, so she seems like she was a really nice professor. So it makes sense that she's able to connect with people like this.
Yeah, and Lydgate is voiced by Barnaby Edwards.
That is such a British name.
Yeah. Speaking of British name, there's a character, Sir Archibald Flint, and he is the rich guy of this area. I think it's Pangriffin, which is, I believe it's a fake village, but like we said, it's in the Cornish moors.
Yeah, was he a duke or something like that?
Yeah, he had some title to him, so he might be in the line of his success and very deep down.
I don't know if that's how it works because I mean the line of success.
I don't think it is. But here's a pretty fun character, though. It's actually through this character that the Eveline's able to find out a lot of history about the local area. And actually, a lot of the history is really interesting, too.
Which I've always liked in horror movies. Well, I think of horror movies most of the time with this type of thing. But I've always liked it when there's something that's been happening over decades and there are people uncovering the history and reading stories about it and learning about the past. I think the most obvious example is something like Stephen King's It, which, ignore that movie, I'm talking about the book right now, the amazing book. But a lot of horror movies that deal with a long-term entity do things like this. I just always found this fascinating, at least as long as it's done well.
Yeah, trying to piece together the history of either a village or a story. It's always fun.
Yeah, and hearing small stories of something that happened, but they grow and grow, and more things happen 10 years later. It's just, I really like that storytelling technique.
Yeah, and so Archibald Flint is voiced by James Borlam. And then there's another character. This is a sort of surprising character. She appears a little bit in the first episode, and then she pops up again later, which really surprised both myself and James. But there was a Mrs. Moynihan who was voiced by Susan Jamieson. I mean, to be fair, it makes sense that she would pop up later. You don't usually see, let me put it this way, if they're paying a bunch of voice actors, it's probably not going to be a character who's only in a single episode. So it makes sense that they'd use her in another capacity later. So maybe we shouldn't have been surprised, but I was surprised. And I thought it was really fun too.
Well, they did have Nikki in this one.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's a character, Nikki. She
did not have a good time.
No, but this is worth expanding on. She was what the hell was she doing? Just like I couldn't exactly. She was
backpacking through the Cornish trails or something like that. I mean, she had a whole route planned. It was actually kind of fascinating.
Yeah, boy, did that not work. Should have chosen a different route.
Apparently, or maybe a different time.
Yeah. So Nikki's this young rose just backpacking through England, which sounds nice. And she runs into Eveline. As Eveline, she was at Sir Archibald Flint's manor, and she was making her way back to the doctor and company. And of course, making her way back, she's walking through the foggy moors, and she runs into Nikki, and they're just walking together, having a good old time. And this is at the end of the first episode, but I thought it's one of my favorite cliffhangers that we've heard. It's just a fantastic cliffhanger, and there's been some decent cliffhangers. But as they're walking, they sort of hear this chuckling, this laughing coming out from the fog, and then it sort of gets more persistent. So this is creepy, mischievous laughing. It sort of sounds like imps or goblins or something like that, because that's sort of the stories around these parts, imps and goblins and our wee beasties of the night.
Yeah, the Fae folk, I believe.
Yeah, fairy folk. And the episode ends with them hearing this laughter and then some creature they can't really see because of all the fog. but some creature jumps out at them. And the rest doesn't happen until the beginning of episode 2, but let's just say Nikki doesn't last that long.
Yeah, she does not have air. It's not like this is only episode 2. She dies.
Well, yeah, and not only does she die, but I really like the quote shortly thereafter. It seemed like the creature, for some reason, didn't attack Evelyn, and she's found shortly thereafter. When one of the characters gets a look at Nikki's body, he says that it looks like she's been half-eaten by the fairy folk. Hannah, how do you like that on your death certificate?
That would be more interesting than death by drowning.
And actually, James, you said there was like a connection with the laughter of the imps that you got reminded of.
It reminds me of an intro track to a 2007 album, The Scroll of the Hours, by a band entitled Zero Cool, which is written in, what's it called? Leakspeak?
Yeah, Leakspeak, I believe.
Yeah, the whole thing where you use numbers as letters. It's the style of the band. But in this intro track, there's imps or goblins or something, and there's just like you hear this laughter and rustling in voices, and it just has a very, very creepy feel. I don't know if we got this on iTunes a long time ago. Not the album, just this track. So I don't know if you can easily find it anyway, but if you can, it's pretty fun. The title of the track is The Gates of Oblivion.
It's like maybe 2 minutes, might just be a minute thought. Yeah, I forget exactly how long it is. It's sort of like a soundscape intro. You hear this guy walking on some cardboard stone. You hear this creature of a gate opening, walking up. It sounds like walking up the porch of a house, and you just hear this mischievous laughter. I mean, it's just a minute or so soundscape song, so it's not like there's much more to it, but it's certainly memorable. And I don't know a thing about Zero Cool's other music, and I don't think anybody else does either. They're a really obscure band, but it's a pretty fun intro.
Yeah, and mostly the end of episode 1 is where this happens. But it just that immediately came to mind because it's the same type of creepy laughing. It just really unsettles me. I don't know if there's a way to phrase it that can explain how unsettling I find the laughing. But if you pick this up, I think you'll probably find it pretty creepy.
Like I said, this whole story has sort of a horror feel to it. The setting is fantastic because, well, there's some moors, there's a country mansion. The only way between the location of the doctor and the expedition is a lonely walk through the moors. And as one of the characters say, night falls very quickly in the moors. The whole atmosphere of the story is fantastic. And yeah, there's a brutal death in which it looks like somebody is ripped apart by the fairy folk. And there's even a character later who gets torn apart by dogs.
Yeah, this is not a happy story. This is one of those much like Phantasmagoria where you can see why it's an audio and not something that was on TV.
Yeah, Mary Whitehouse is listening to this. What the fuck are they doing?
Yeah, Mary Whitehouse would not have been a fan of these.
Yeah, this is and not only that, but there's a couple of scenes in which Evelyn was being held captive by someone, and she was going to be tortured for interfering in someone's plans. The individual who captured them said that they were going to boil out her eyes.
Torture? Did you say torture?
And if you guys get that reference, you're godfather.
Yeah, very well done. But yeah, I don't want my eyes boiled out, and I'm pretty sure Evelyn didn't either.
Yeah, it's not like this is necessarily exceptionally dark and brutal, but it was certainly noticeable throughout the story. Like I said, it just lends to the whole horror feel of the story.
Yeah, it does, and that's part of, I don't know, my brother and I are fans of horror films, so that's probably part of what makes it so good, at least for us.
And that's another one of the reasons that Whispers of Terror stood out to me. Now, Whispers of Terror it doesn't lean heavily on the horror aspect. Portions do, but that one's more formally science fiction. But the atmosphere and the idea was certainly horror in style, and this one just sort of goes all out in ways that not that many Doctor Who stories do. So we mentioned Sancreda Ole, he's one of the antagonists. Well, I should say, like many Doctor Who stories, there's sort of a human antagonist in a way, and there's an alien antagonist, which is not uncommon. And Sancreda is, as you can imagine, the alien antagonist. The opening of the story, and it actually reminds me a bit of City of Death, which was a pretty well-respected Tom Baker story, in which Sancreda and his brother, they're just aliens who happen to be on Earth. I forget exactly what they're doing there, but this happened sometime in the past.
I believe 16,000 years.
I think it
was 18,000.
Yeah, 18,000 years of torment. But yeah, Sancreda and his brother are on Earth, and then I think there was some atmospheric change, some big weather issue. They had to get off Earth to survive. So the opening is them trying to rush. Well, technically his brother is at the ship, but Sancreda is being sort of stopped by some primitive humans because this is way in the past. And it sort of shows why Sancreda is trapped here on Earth, as opposed to being free to travel the galaxy in his alien ways. And I should say that James and I got a kick out of Sancreda's vocal style.
Yeah, he had a very glorious voice acting.
Yeah, it's like a very high, shrill voice. But as he hears what sounds like the ship taking off, and he's screaming into a communicating device, "Don't dissolve me!" Like, I can barely say it with a straight face. He's just saying, pretty much saying, "Don't dissolve me!" And it was just, I mean, he said other things too.
He had a lot of good lines. He was memorable.
Yes, Sancreda, and like I said, Sancreda is voiced by Toby Longworth. And that was a really fun opening. It takes a bit for him to pop up again, but when he does pop up, he's a pretty fun character. He even says, this is a line that I wrote down, because I thought it was a fantastic line. I think it's the doctor asks him a question, and of course the doctor on the side note knows what species he is, because of course he does. But the doctor asks him a question, and Sancreda replies, "Who are you that I should give you reasons?"
He's just slightly arrogant.
To be fair, if you've had 18,000 years of torment, how should you feel?
Probably much like Sancreda.
Yeah.
Peace be upon him.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, he says that 18,000 years of torment thing multiple times throughout.
I guess you would be caught up on that if you suffered for 18,000 years. So.
I get it. I'd be upset too. Yeah, he's a fun one. I really liked him. Even the Brigadier liked him.
I don't remember the Brigadier liking him myself, but maybe.
But yeah, Sancreda was definitely a fun character. And really a lot of the characters in this one was fun. It took a little bit, in my opinion, for Professor Morgan, to really stand out. But like I said, he doesn't really get along with the Doctor, and they have a pretty fun argument about halfway through the story. As the Doctor's explaining he's trying to explain a bunch of things about alien life and such, and Professor Morgan, coming from an educated background, doesn't accept a lot of what the Doctor has to say, as well, up to that point, he doesn't really have the evidence to do so. And they're just biting back and forth at each other, and the Doctor really sort of lays into him in a way that I think really I think Tom Baker would do it too. And Tom Baker, there's a few Doctors who would do it. But.
Yeah, Tom Baker would do it. I think Tom Baker would do, well, I would say in a nicer way, but then I'm thinking about Tom Baker, and that's not true. But Courtney would have done it in a slightly more mannered way, but he would have been just as frustrated.
Yeah, and so this Doctor's frustrated, and he just sort of towers him off.
We'll be tied with the first Doctor.
And it's fun because Evelyn insists, because she's watching this whole incident, but Evelyn insists that he go and apologize to Professor Morgan, and the Doctor's immediate response, and you can easily imagine Colin Baker saying this, "Why should I? The man's an idiot." And so what's funny about the scene is he does shortly thereafter promise to Evelyn that he's going to go apologize. And he does go back, he goes into the room and he says some nice things about Professor Morgan, saying that they're honored to have the help of someone as distinguished as him during his expedition and things like that. The funny thing is, he never actually apologizes. He says some nice things and sort of just smooths things over, but never does he apologize. And I find it.
The words "I'm sorry" did not come out of his mouth during that exchange.
Yeah, so Professor Morgan, because of his interactions with the Doctor, he was a lot of fun. There's another character who might be described as a bit insane.
Yeah, they were insane. They seemed fine, but they had problems.
Yeah, I mean, as the kids say, they were cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And
I hate that phrasing.
Yeah, I'm nuttier than a fruit bar.
That's horrible too.
Yeah, any type of those
idioms.
Youthful exuberant idioms. But yeah, this character is apparently a follower of Aleister Crowley. Now, I was not going to do a Michael's history corner here, but a lot of people, I suspect, know who Aleister Crowley is. He's sort of this...
Or at least they know the name.
Yeah, at least they know the name. This mystical type guy from, I believe, the late 1800s, maybe early 1900s. I forget when he died. But the point being, he's a recognizable name in the whole occult niche of people. And he had something called the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Most people just call it the Golden Dawn for short. And this character is a follower of Aleister Crowley. and has a deep appreciation for the Golden Dawn, which is sort of a secret society that dealt with metaphysics and occultism, just a bunch of different type of things. Hey, if that's how you want to live life, by all means, go join cult, I guess. But it's not the way I want to live life. But hey, for some people it works. And this guy happened to be a follower of Crowley and those ideas. And in fact, this character is described as a latter-day warlock, which is a really cool description. I wish somebody called me a latter-day warlock. I'm just not that magical, though.
Yeah, I've always liked the word warlock, so it works. Yeah, it's always a nice word to hear in any context.
Yeah, and he's a somewhat antagonistic force that isn't working with Sancreda, but they have sort of a relationship. At least he thinks they have a relationship, but it just adds to the fun of the story. And one of the reasons, like James mentioned earlier, there's a couple of Tristan's tones in this story. There's some characters who have hidden motivations. Some of them are surprising, some not so much. Like I called one sort of early, like, hey, that is probably not a good guy. But then some definitely surprising. There was one character who I was on the fence about, but then I thought, well, wait, this character's already sort of come out as an antagonistic force. Is this character really going to be another antagonistic force? And it turns out they sort of were. So there's a bunch of Tristan tones here.
And they all worked out rather well too. I liked how they were revealed throughout the story.
But yeah, it's a pretty solid story. But before we give, I guess, our final thoughts on it, James, do you jump into the whole timeline spiel?
Yeah, our final thoughts should be pretty obvious at this point. But as listeners to us know, we quite enjoy the TARDIS wiki, and it has personal timelines for each Doctor, placing those stories in chronological order in their own timelines. And this includes the extensive extended media, which is what makes it so fun. So it doesn't count just the TV show, the classic and New Who, but also the comic books, the comic strips, Big Finish, the random BBC ideas that have come out. And I'm not so when we'll get to those or how you even buy them, to be completely honest. But it counts those and really everything in between. Doctor Who canon is a mess. So it's kind of fun to see where the stories where this casting fit into the universe as a whole, as far as they do. And this one's really pretty simple. Of course, it's a 6th Doctor story, so it takes place after the trial of a Time Lord. Most of the 6th Doctor ideas were all the ones with Dr. Evelyn Smythe too. So it takes place after the trial of a Time Lord. So it takes place in between the Marian Conspiracy, which was the introduction story for Dr. Evelyn Smythe, and we have previously discussed that in our podcast. And interestingly enough, The Silence of Time, the very first Big Finish Doctor Who story. Now, Dr. Evelyn Smythe did not appear in The Silence of Time, but a later audio story places her in the TARDIS during the 6th Doctor's portion. That story was divided by each Doctor had one episode, and then they meet up in the last episode, if you've listened to a podcast about that one. And she was apparently in the TARDIS during the 6th Doctor's story portion, even though the character didn't appear herself. So that's, I think, a really fascinating... I don't even know if it's a retcon, but certainly it didn't say anywhere during The Sands of Time that the Doctor had a companion. The Doctor just conveniently did not mention that during his time on the ship, which is, by the way, that was a really fun episode. But so this story takes place just between two audios, nice, simple, and very oddly, two audios that we've listened to, which is not going to always be the case. Because that's not usual.
I'd imagine it's very rarely going to be the case, but that just adds to the fun.
That's the fun of Doctor Who timelines.
But yeah, the Spectre of Lanyon Moor, I think it's obvious. James said it's obvious what our thoughts were. We both really like this story. I just want to go over the cast one last time because, well, they sort of bring the story together. I mean, naturally, you have Colin Baker and Maggie Stables as the Doctor and Evelyn, but in this one, we also get Nicholas Courtney back as the Brigadier, Toby Longworth pulling double duty, Professor Morgan and Sancreda, Barnaby Edwards as Philip Ladgate, James Bolam as Sir Archibald Flint. And I should mention that his character has some, I don't know, I don't want to say hammy, but his character definitely has some fun in this one.
Yeah, and I always like when actors have fun with the roles. At least when, I guess we have never know how much fun they're having, but when it seems like they're having fun with their roles.
Yeah, and Susan Jamison voiced Mrs. Moynihan, and she was actually the very first person that the Doctor and Evelyn met when they landed in these moors, which Evelyn was not very impressed with on the side.
Yeah, no, they landed in the middle of a moor.
Evelyn just wanted some fucking breakfast, and the Doctor's taking them for walks, looking at, hey, look, a fugu.
Yeah, the Doctor's excited to see it. You know, Evelyn wanted just to go down this small village. She wanted breakfast. The Doctor, no, let's go up the hill and look at the fugu.
Yeah, poor woman. Hey,
she got her breakfast in the end.
Well, I mean, that's our Moynihan did. She just made coffee. It's fun because there's also an early scene with the Brigadier.
Well, she makes coffee and walks her dogs.
Well, yeah. This is an early scene where the Brigadier is speaking to Professor Morgan, saying, "Where is that woman? I want my coffee."
Yeah, that's a nice class.
Well, it's just
politics
funny.
for you.
Well, are they just such mini that make coffee for them? I just made coffee earlier tonight. It's not that bad, guys.
Well, maybe. Well, was it coffee or was it tea? No,
Oh,
it was coffee. Wait.
I'm pretty sure it's coffee.
Yeah, I'll suspect tea, but yeah, actually in this case, I think it was coffee.
It's because you're racist, James.
I don't think so.
But yeah, this story was quite a bit of fun. Like I've mentioned before, it has a great horror atmosphere to it, great horror movie feel. The cliffhanger of episode 1, in which is a woman about to be attacked by an imp or goblin type thing, beautiful. The spooky moors, the spooky country mansion. I mean, a lot of things just work in this story. And Sancreda, I mean, who doesn't love Sancreda?
Honestly, I hope he shows up again.
Yeah.
I would love that so much.
He should be a companion. Because maybe...
Oh, humanizing Sancreda, showing him the joys of the universe. He doesn't need to be better for 18,000 years of torment. Might need to see a lot of joys, but...
Yeah, because then you can say, I've traveled to the dark for 18,000 years. And it's great seeing the Brigadier come back too. And as you can imagine, the Brigadier's here and he gets some action toward the end. And much like, was it Battlefield? But he's willing to do quite a bit to keep people safe in the story. And it's also fun because he's technically retired.
Yeah, he would fit the retired badass trope.
Yeah. He's technically retired, but once some things go down and they need some unit and military assistance, they pretty much are like, go to him. They say, hey, what's the Brigadier need? It's fun.
Yeah, for me, as I've said before, this was easily my favorite of the Big Finish ones we've listened to. There have been some strong contenders. I really like The Sands of Time. I thought they had an excellent plot twist near the end. Whispers of Terror was very suitably creepy, although I thought the politics detracted from the story for me because of how light it was in terms of the storytelling.
And I think aspects of the film angle were quite strong too.
I was about to mention the film angle, and I also liked, as I said earlier, I like Radon more than Michael did. I mean, the genocide machine was also really fun, and that also was helped by the locale of a rainforest planet.
The atmosphere of the genocide machine was pretty on point.
Yeah, but this atmosphere does, I think, beat out the atmosphere of the genocide machine. And I don't know if the plot twist beat it out, but I think they were more fun in this one. And just relating to Aleister Crowley and the whole insanity of the not to, I guess, inside the people who follow our Catholicism, but I don't believe in it. But I think it just made the story a lot of fun. The horror vibes made it a lot of fun. The characters, like I said, all of them were worth it. Sancreda was VIP, absolute legend. This is one of the favorite Big Finish things we've listened to so far. I really look forward to whenever they do some more horror. I mean, Phantasmagoria was horror themed, Whispers of Terror was horror. I guess, technically speaking, the Dark deals with monsters a lot, so a lot of them could be horror themed as long as they do it in that sort of way. But this is, to me, the most horror themed one that we've had so far, and I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, naturally, if you've listened to this one, we'd like to hear your thoughts too. If you'd like to leave a comment, send us a message on Twitter. I don't know. I was trying to think of some cool things that kids do, like reply with a TikTok vid, guys. I don't know if that's how you use TikTok. Yeah, hey, if you've seen this one, though, and you have an opinion, either you agree or you think it's like the worst thing that Doctor's ever done, we're sort of curious, so reach out to us. And actually, on that note, you should be able to follow us at Brothers Mahoney on Twitter. We don't post much, but we're always there. Yeah, we really should try to up our posting game, but posting like once every couple of days, and it seems okay to me. To be fair, we don't do that either, but hey, we are trying.
It's the thought that kind of counts.
Yeah. So hey, but if you want to, you can follow us at Twitter, or like I said, comment below this, let us know what you thought. And on that note, James, what do we have coming up next?
Coming up next, we are returning to New Who with Christopher Eccleston Season 1. We discussed Dalek, of course, and now we shall be discussing The Long Game, what I think is one of the more underrated episodes of Season 1 of the revival, because I've always had great fun with this one.
Yeah, and it's one of those episodes that we've seen multiple times. We've mentioned before there are some New Who episodes we've only seen maybe once.
That's not until the Capaldi times, basically. We've seen, well, maybe later Matt Smith. I've seen all of Matt Smith's time at least twice.
One that immediately comes to my mind is Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. I've only seen that one once. I don't remember a thing about it. So
it might be bad to having only seen that one once.
Oh, snap.
I don't know. I don't know. That season is that season 7B, I believe it is. So season 7B is not very, very strong. So
that's because you don't like Clara.
I don't like Clara, but we'll discuss that when we get to
Yeah.
the joys of Clara.
Yeah, but anyhow, next up we have the long game. So as always, I hope that you've all enjoyed listening. Again, I'm Michael.
And I'm James.
Yeah, and we've been the Brothers Mahoney. Have a nice night.